Hi everyone, Sasha here from LongPlayVinyl, and I've got a treat for you today. Now, a little while ago I did a video showing off my MELODIYA records, basically records pressed in Soviet Union on a MELODIYA label. And those are usually official or unofficial releases, but they're made under some kind of a license and they're considered as legit records. Now, what I'm about to show today are my bootleg records from Russia once again, Soviet Union, Russia, because they come from the time when Soviet Union was falling apart, and those are Western bands that you know very well, and I'd like to show them off because they're pretty interesting and unique. So these records were released under a label called Antrop. This label was owned by Andrey Tropillo, who at some point in the late 80s became one of the managers of MELODIYA, a recording studio in Leningrad back then, which is now called St. Petersburg. And he started pressing his own versions of Western music. Now, he began pressing music as a producer and a sound engineer for Russian rock bands, and he was the only contact for those bands to actually release rock, which was kind of frowned upon back then in Soviet Union. From 1989 to 1991, he released millions of copies of about 200 popular Western rock albums. So this guy was pressing Western records illegally, if you look at it now, but back then there was kind of a flaw in the Russian or Soviet law, should I say, that allowed him to do so. It was legal to broadcast music, and that's pretty much what he did. On his records, it usually says recorded from a broadcast, recorded from a transmission of some sort, which kind of made it legal back in the day. Another thing that he did to make it more legal, he actually played with the cover art for those records, not just simply copy them and maybe have some issues with those copyrights. So he changed a few things, or a lot of things in some cases, on different records, and I'll show some of them today as well. At the same time, this sound producer was working with the Lutheran Church of Russia of some sort. Nobody really knows how he was connected with them, but he was connected well enough in order to use their printing facilities. And a lot of records, a lot of these Antrop labeled records, they have a stamp from that Lutheran Church of Russia, and they have a label of that church, and it's written something like printed by the rock and roll division of Lutheran Church, some stuff like that. It's really amazing and interesting how ingenious these people are and how he found ways to get stuff done. Okay, so let's get into the actual records. I know this is what you want to see and this is what you want to hear about. Okay, so first one, we have a double LP. This is Led Zeppelin 4 and 5, which basically means that 5 is the houses of the holy and the Led Zeppelin 4 is Led Zeppelin 4. Now, if you look at the cover, it's not an original cover, and just like some random dude on this picture, which kind of looks like the official release, but not really. So I looked it up, I searched for this man in this picture, and his name is Dmitry Shagin. He was actually hanging out with Andrey back in the day, and a lot of people were hanging out together, all these people that like rock music. And he is a very well-known painter in Russia. So that's actually the man you see on the picture for this record. It is a gatefold, of course. The whole track listing is in Russian. They actually translated the names of the songs. So if you read Russian, you'll see tracks that are named like Black Dog, Rock and Roll, The Never-Ending Fights, Stairway to Heaven. They actually translated all of them. And if you look here, it says Led Zeppelin 4, and here it says Led Zeppelin 5, and underneath it says The Houses of the Holy. So that's one of those albums that are pretty cool, and I'm happy to have that. It's really interesting. Let's move on to the next one. You've got another Led Zeppelin from Antrop as well, and this is the back of it. I have Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. This is the front, this is the back, This is a 1991 pressing. And here, once again, you have Pink Floyd written in Cyrillic letters. And here it's written "Wish You Were Here," but it's translated to Russian actually. So it's not "Wish You Were Here," it's a Russian translation of that phrase. The next one is Sonic Youth Daydream Nation. Once again, it's written in Russian. And I know this cover art, some people say it's some random picture of a candle. It's not. It's actually an official picture taken by a famous photographer whose name I forgot at this point, but it's not just a random candle. However, the fact still stands, this is not the official cover art for this album. So this is only Antrop copy that you'll spot with this kind of cover. Next one, Deep Purple, Stormbringer. Same thing, you have everything translated to Russian in the back. And what I just noticed, interesting, you have all your tracks written in Russian, and at the very bottom it says in English. Basically, they're trying to explain that these songs are not Russian songs, these are like English songs, just to make sure they specified it. It's in English. Alright, so next up I have the Beatles. This is, I think there are two LPs in here. This is a gatefold. That's how it looks in the front. This is the back. You see the Antrop logo in the back. There isn't one in the front. And if you open it, that's what you get to see inside. Next up, another Beatles. This is Help. From what I remember, the official artwork, so the Beatles, they're actually standing in a straight line. Here they're not, because once again, as you know, some people say, yeah, they couldn't fit them or whatever. No, they made these subtle changes, or pretty obvious changes actually, simply so they wouldn't get sued or they wouldn't get into trouble for copyright issues. This way, they're like, well, that's not the same cover, this is a different cover, so we're not breaking any copyright laws. There you go. And I have the last one here, The Rubber Soul by the Beatles. You could see Rubber Soul written here, and the Russian translation is written inside of the actual Rubber Soul writing. A lot of people are wondering about the quality of these pressings. In my opinion and my experience, the quality of sound is actually good. It's not, you know, it's hard to tell sometimes if the sound is amazing or not amazing, because these are old records. You have to keep in mind that these are old. Once again, were made from 1989 to 1991. So, you know, they're a bit used, they're not brand new, they're a little bit dirty, but in my opinion, they sound pretty nice. I would actually listen to them again and again. Now, the covers, that's a different story. These covers are cheaply made. They're rather thin, and it feels like they're going to break apart. I can't really show it on the video, you're not gonna see it, but when you touch it, you feel it's some cheap paper. It's very, very thin. These albums that I got, they're actually in pretty decent condition, and most of the covers are in good conditions as well. It seems like people took care of them. Most of them came with outer sleeves. All the records have inner sleeves, as you could see right here. So whoever had them, they took care of them. Another thing that I'd like to show here, since I took it out, just a quick look at the actual labels. These are not the only Antrop labels, but most of them do look just like this one. Okay, so this is, for instance, the Rubber Soul. It actually looks brand new, honestly. It doesn't feel like anybody ever listened to it actually. So yeah, that's how the actual record look, the bootleg record from Antrop. If you're interested in these records, you could find them on Discogs, and they're not that expensive. What will kill you is the shipping from countries like Russia, Ukraine, Estonia, because that's where most of the sellers are from who sell these releases. Now, if you go directly to one of those countries, if you happen to travel there, look around and you'll find them rather cheaply there. You could probably pay less than $4 for a near mint copy, and you'll pay maybe $1 or $2 for a VG Plus copy. If you're in one of those countries or you're visiting, they have millions of people who have these copies, so they're going for cheap. Now Discogs is a different story, and of course, as I mentioned, shipping is expensive, and the records themselves are quite a bit more expensive than they cost locally in those countries. Personally, I found these records on a Ukrainian website, which is kind of a Craigslist, but it's a different website. So I got in touch with a person who had a whole bunch of them for sale. We made some kind of a deal, and I had a friend who was in Ukraine at a time, so I asked him to bring those to me, which I hope he wasn't very pissed about, because those things weigh a lot, and you know, with weight restrictions when flying, it's not the best thing to do when you're doing it for someone. If I go to Ukraine, or when I go to Ukraine, I'll certainly look for more of these bootlegs, because, well, I enjoy having these different releases that you won't really find many of them here in North America. So I'm really happy to have them. Alright folks, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, do click the like button, share it with your friends who also like records. If you like our videos, please do subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. This will help us bring more content to you. Now, if you have any specific questions about these albums, or about Antrop, or about Russian bootlegs, I've read quite a bit of information on it, since I do read and understand Russian. This information is easier to find for me. So if you have any specific questions, please do go ahead and post your questions in the comment box below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and I'll try to, answer the best I can. Once again, thanks for watching.